Morning. Just going to do a very quick video. Came in here this morning to do a little bit of sharpening, and I decided to do just a little bit of experimentation. So in my prior videos, I'd mentioned using this new surgical black Arkansas stone, which I've been getting some good results with, and I'm happy with it. But what I decided to try was, I was looking on, there's ways to prep these stones. I didn't go through any of that. I see some people say it's a great idea, other people say it's completely unnecessary. So I didn't do any prep work. I will eventually have to flatten it and all that. But for now, it seems to be working just fine. But you can't really, with these stones, there's no real true grit level that is really definable. I see, because it's a natural stone, you can't really just say, oh, this is a 2500 grit stone or it's a 2200 grit stone. There's really no way to like sort of quantify what it is. A lot of people compare them to a 4000 grit water stone. They say that's a pretty good comparison. And because of their hardness, you generally don't need to have anything finer than that in most, for the vast majority of your sharpening for woodworking and pocket knives, anything like that. But I do have an 8000 grit water stone here, and I mentioned in other videos for many years I used an 800 grit and 8000 grit and then a leather strop. I decided to, now that would be really for prepping a chisel or a plain iron that was in, I don't want to say rough shape, but it really needed a good once over. For typical honing purposes, meaning most of my tools, as I said before, most woodworkers keep their tools pretty sharp. From the get-go, it's rarely that you start your next project and all your chisels need a 15-minute setup. Usually you just need a 30 to 60 second honing and you're good to go. Most of the time when I do that, I would use just this 8000 grit water stone and the leather strop to give it a quick once over. I wouldn't use the 800 grit stone necessarily for a quick honing. But I decided to see what would happen if I used this stone here, the black Arkansas stone, and the water stone, the 8000 grit water stone, along with the leather strop, to see if that made any difference for honing purposes. And so what I did, I sharpened up this chisel here. This is 1 1/4 inch that I probably should never really have purchased. I almost never use it. It's just not, it's a great tool. It just never comes up, and I sort of really have much of a need for it. Most of my projects don't require a chisel this large. I also sharpened this up here, my smooth plane, and I did my black plane, but I don't know why, but I put it away. I put it away because I wasn't really thinking about doing a video. I was actually listening to music. So I sharpened up my black plane here, and try this board. This was one of my the boards I was using to sharpen that router plane I made. Let's figure out which way the grain's going. And I also sharpened up, before I go on, I also sharpened this. I'll try the block plane first. I think I mentioned before that, you know, we talked about buying new tools, vintage tools, all of that. if there was one tool I would purchase brand new, way too deep of a cut, it would probably be this block plane. If you use a block plane, a lot of people don't necessarily use one, but I think it's a good tool to have. It's still way too deep. I probably should have set this up before we started the video. Still too deep of a cut, but it's pretty sharp, which is very good. Certainly sharp enough for woodworking purposes. I normally wouldn't take anywhere near that deep of a cut when using a block plane. That's more like the cut I would take, which is fine but not crazy fine. So that's good. That went through there nice and easy. And we'll try this guy here. This is getting to the point where the mouth needs to be. I mean, it's not horrible. I do probably need a flatness as well. Well, that's a very nice cut. And I didn't even adjust it yet. No, I'm very pleased with that. Let's see if I can get it even finer. I mean, you can definitely go finer if you like. Sorry, it's all bound up. That's a very nice shaving, nice and translucent. I'll try one more. I generally don't use this hammer to do this, but it's sitting there, so. Touch finer, not incredible. There's my plain hammer. Here we go. And also this really nice shavings here. This is what you're looking for out of your smooth plane. And it's nice and even on both sides. See through, I can see my finger right through it. And it's not so fine that it's falling apart. I mean, I guess that's the super gossamer shavings are what some people look for. In my experience, you don't need to plane that fine, but I have no doubt that this is certainly sharp enough to do that. It's actually really sharp. It's probably as sharp as I've ever had it. And we'll try the smooth plane here. This number 4 smooth plane, I mean. Well, that's barely taken. It's almost like feathers. Try this. Quick adjustment. Now this is, I mean, that's just a ridiculously thin shaving. I would not shave that. I would not set my plane to shave that way. I mean, it is a sign that your plane is sharp, but there's really no need to have shavings that size. But it is nice and smooth. That's probably a good. This is a touch finer than I had the that wood golf and smoother set. Sorry, this is really trying to keep it together. That is certainly as fine as I would ever require any of my planes to shave. There's really no need. If you want finer than that, you use a scraper, in my opinion. Let's try this chisel. As I said, I do not like sharpening big chisels for some reason. It's taking a nice shaving. Problem is this thing's playing too smooth now. I mean, that's definitely woodworking sharp. There's no doubt about that. Once again, this here, the only way I'd really recommend, most woodworkers really don't need a chisel that's 1.25 inches. That's in my opinion. The only way I'd really recommend getting something like this is if you were buying a nice set and the set had a good price and it happened to come with 1.25 inch chisel. And I suppose you could use it if you made really big cases and stuff like that. Now I sharpened this gouge. This is an inexpensive gouge. It has very little radius to it. But I sharpened it just for the sake of sharpening. It's surprisingly nice and sharp. And I use this. I sharpened this. Nice little curly shaving. I sharpened this last night. I didn't do this today, but I used the same exact method: black Arkansas stone, 8,000 grit water stone, and leather strap. So I also sharpened my pocket knife last night. This is not a great knife. We'll get that out of the way right now. But it is nice and sharp. There's almost no pressure. That's really the sign I'm looking for when I'm sharpening. I am not putting down any pressure. I'm just using my hand. I'll do it with one hand just to show what I'm talking about. It's a little bit harder to control the knife, but it go against the grain. There's just no pressure needed at all, and that to me is a sign of a good sharp knife. Not razor where I'd shave my face with it, but I wouldn't shave my face with anything other than a safety razor. So I actually have used a straight razor before, but I prefer a safety razor. But point is, even this knife, which this is that's CPK 325 steel. I am not ultra familiar with all these steel designations. I know that this steel, you see it on a lot of knives, and like sold by like companies like Klein Tools and Milwaukee Tools, tools from that make companies that make tools for the electrical industry, and it's really, I'd have to really look up. I'm not going to pretend I know what all those numbers mean, but it's to me, these tools are they're made to hold an edge that's decent, that's pretty good for field work, where the edge is going to be, the blade itself is going to be durable. This is a nice thick blade. I like blades like that because they just hold up to abuse, and when you're using them for construction work and that type of thing, you're not overly worried about this thing, anything happening to it. You can beat the heck out of it and it will last, and it's never going to be a super fine pocket knife. I have a couple of really nice pocket knives that I only carry around on occasion. They're made by a company called Case. They make really good. They're in Pennsylvania. They make really nice knives, and they're almost too nice to use in your everyday use. I know it's sort of almost a sin to say something like that, but that's the way I feel about them. For me, that'd be the type of knife. If you were, maybe a fighter pilot or something like that, and you needed good knives for your survival kit in case you get shot down behind the lines, then you have something that you want to have tools like that. This tool here, this is for if it falls off of a ladder, you don't care, and the steel's just good enough to hold an edge and cut the things you need to cut. You're not going to be carving marble with this, but it's certainly good enough for everyday use. So, yeah, I've just to, before I leave, let's say that I'm been really happy with this. It's doing a nice job. It will certainly sharpen up your tools, your woodworking tools, to the point that they're usable for your most of your typical homeowner woodworking projects. When I used this here, it did improve the edge. I won't lie. I'm not gonna. That's not a knock on this at all, but this did help polish the edge up more. There's no doubt about that. But the bad side is, that's weird. That's really unusual. Little balls of. See if you can see that. That's little balls of water that came off of the this stone after I cleaned it up, and actually that's a good way to close this out. One thing about water stones, where an oil stone, in my opinion, is far superior, is for instance, on a day like today, it's actually nice out, but it's below freezing. It's I don't know, maybe 28 degrees or so. And normally, when I would use these water stones, I have a hose spigot right outside. I would do my thing, take them outside, use the diamond plate that flattened them and cleaned them up. Then I would get the hose and just spray them off. It's obviously far too cold to do that today. So I ended up cleaning them up on my bench, and it got all over my bench. And that's where these are at for your, if you're a guy like me, you don't have a real dedicated workshop. You just have a space in your garage or a spare room or something. I don't have a dry or a sink out here, a dry or a wet one, where I could clean this up in the sink and not make a mess. I unfortunately have to do it on my bench, and what happened is I got all over my bench, the slurry and all that. So it's a mess I'll have to clean up. I like to keep my bench top as clean as possible. I mean, not crazy, but I do. I like to keep it free of debris, and if there's any stains on it, I'll usually scrape them off or something like that. And that's where, once again, an oil stone sharpening system, which in my new experience, it tells me that these oil stones are just as viable as any water stone setup. They'll work just fine. So if you're getting into sharpening, or if you're looking for a sharpening system, don't be afraid to try oil stones. Like anything else, with a little bit of practice, you'll do great with them. They are more than capable of handling all of your woodworking sharpening needs, and then some. I'd even go as far as to say you can sharpen your finest kitchen knives with these, and I'm sure you can. That's not my opinion. That's the opinion of real experts. So yeah, I was just want to share what I found this morning. Being as I said, it's nice out but cold, so I won't be spending much time outside today. So I decided to get a little work done around the house and the garage and keep my tools maintained, stuff like that. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it helped. Hope it helps you if you're getting into sharpening or you're looking for different sharpening methods. Have any questions or comments, let me know. Thanks. Have a great day.